this
It was long.
meeting to order.
long.
It's 6 p.m., January 30th, 2018.
Okay.
Are there any additions to the agenda for routine administrative matters and/or pressing matters that will require ratification at a future meeting? Yes.
Yes, executive session on labor relations.
Thank you. Is there anything else? All right. We have the minutes of January 9th. Let's join forward. Motion to approve.
I have a couple questions.
Oh, of course, but it just.
Sorry, I know. I wasn't here. Page 2.
I guess I'll second it for discussion.
Okay.
All right. So.
Page 2, the bottom of the page, the list of items were listed, but apparently the way it's written here, the board did not approve any of these requests of dates and times for any of the items. Is that is that correct, my understanding?
That is how it's read. I believe that we wanted like a spreadsheet or something like a solid.
Right, but we didn't get that. No,
No.
that's correct, we didn't. And she shakes her head. So I believe it was asked, but we didn't write for that.
Okay. So.
So my question about it is, the second item, the water wastewater funds cash flow analysis requested by the end of January. Since the board did not ask that, it doesn't matter, which means technically we haven't really done anything with the list of items to be requested done by the end of June. So I guess that's a subject that's not on our agenda, but something that we were supposed to do and have not.
Can we just ask to have the spreadsheet? I guess individual boards, we can look and approve the lists.
Okay?
I think that's it.
We had items listed, these are the items, there's not much on it.
So these items for the next meeting for each of us. I mean, if that's
That works for us.
yeah, just to approve the manager goals for. I guess just a spreadsheet for each board, and then we'll just individually.
Such as it
approve
is.
Such as they are.
Such
Yeah.
as it is. I think that was it.
Okay. Any other comments on the minutes? All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. All right, so now we'll have public comment for items not on the agenda. Is there anyone here? Public comment? All right. First item, we have updates from the Greater Falls Regional Chamber of Commerce. Doreen?
I'm Doreen Studley with Great Falls Regional Chamber of Commerce, and I believe you all have a couple handouts. One of them is for Person of the Year nomination. Our annual dinner will be in April, and we'll be selecting a Person of the Year. Anybody can be nominated. So hopefully we'll get a lot of nominations for anybody that you think that does a lot in their community and deserves the recognition. Also, there is a sheet here from BDCC and Southern Vermont Economic Project. They have installed equipment down at the Waypoint Center, and it's basically a speaker, a laptop, and it's for meetings with their partners. And it just, you can read, it just goes through, it's to bring the Southern Vermont community together. And Great Falls Regional Chamber of Commerce, RAMP, Bennington Chamber, and BDCC are involved with this, and in hopes to, when we have our meetings for economic development, one of the things is to get people, so like, there's not, when the weather's bad, this year's been terrible for weather, so if we have meetings, we can do it, at the chamber for the ones that are here. Bennington also has some in their chamber as well, so we can do it over the airways, and everybody can participate in the meetings, and it would be a lot easier. And if there's anybody that has meetings through these partners, they can use the equipment. And that is, with that said, is when I'm there. As long as I'm there, then we can schedule the appointments and everything like that, so.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I think it's just slow starting right now. Actually, Friday morning will be the very first one that we'll be doing. So that will be interesting. And I think it will be a win-win, and if anybody, down the road needs to use it, they can use it. So I think it'll be a win-win for everybody. And then I have our year in review for 2017, and this just goes over everything that the Chamber has accomplished last year. From ribbon cuttings to our events that we had. We started, I don't know, maybe midway through the year with the ribbon cutting, so we didn't have that many. All of them were in the Bellows Falls area. We had our events, the annual dinner, golf tournament, Old Home Days, and the Chowder and Chili Cook-Off. And the Chowder and Chili Cook-Off, we have joined with BIFTA for the Shop Local program, and that has tripled since the first year that we've done it. The first year, I think we had maybe 50 people attend. This year, we had over 200. So it's really gained a lot of speed. Plus, weather was on our side this year, too. So, but it has turned into a really great event for the area. Then we have our brown bag lunch series and educational series. And there's a list of those that we've had down at the Waypoint. And then just different things that I've been involved with, the Chamber's been involved with throughout the year. The visitors at the Waypoint this year, this has 2374, but I would say it's probably closer to 2,600 people last year. Either they were there visiting, having lunch outside on the patio, whatever they were doing down there. There's a lot of people that came through last year. So, and it seems like there's been more and more every year, which is good. So people aren't having a hard time finding the place down there. And if anybody has any questions for me?
Is there new signage directing people down there?
I don't think there's anything new since I've been down there, but people are not having a hard time finding it.
Okay, because I keep on hearing about signage issues, whatever.
Well, I
Signs.
mean, I don't think I could tell you where the signs are in town, but it doesn't seem like people have a really hard time. I know there's been a lot of issue about, parking and this and that, and I do know, I found on Main Street Art's website that they actually have a nice map of all the different parking areas, probably for when they have their big events like the Opera House.
Did
or
they use
whatever.
GPS to get there?
Yeah, a lot of people do use
Okay.
GPS. Yeah.
Wondering how it was changed.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I don't know if it's just people are more aware that somebody's actually down there now, or because this time of year, we really don't get a whole lot of people from the train or the bus unless they're just cold and need to get out of the weather. But most people are coming there, parking their cars, and looking for things, certain things. So they do have an agenda when they're there.
Any more questions for Jane? Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah.
And we have Mary Helen Hawthorne from the Bellows Falls Downtown Development Alliance.
I always give you a little sort of cheat sheet to follow along with what I'm going to report to you about. Thank you for your support, as I always feel that's really important to say. Thank you for increasing our support this year, both town and village, from $5,000 to $7,500. This is the first increase that we've had in support since our inception in 1999. We do have MOUs between the village and MOU between the town, and since the amount of funding has changed and a bunch of things, I would suggest to the boards that they might want to look at those MOUs and revisit that and then have them updated, because one of them was I think the village one was in 2007 and the town one even maybe before that. So they should probably be updated if you want to continue to have an MOU between the Downtown Alliance and the town and the village. A few little things happening in downtown. This Christmas season, there was a pop-up in the Newbury Building, Home Christmas, that had been in between the Rockingham and the bookstore. They made a deal with the owners of the Newbury Building to have their pop-up, Christmas pop-up there. And I think that was very successful. The reason that they needed to find another place was that River Artisans from Saxon's River now has taken over that space on a permanent basis. And so that's another new entity in the downtown. As you all know, the yellow building at the head of the square was sold, and they're in the process of rehabilitating that building. The owners did receive tax credits of about $24,000 from the state. And as you know, that tax credit program is a benefit of being a designated downtown. And that will help them with their rehabilitation of that building. Busy Bees, which is a child reused clothing store and equipment, is now in the Firehouse building on the ground floor. So we do have, the only ground floor vacancy that I'm aware of that we have in the immediate downtown is the barber shop. And as you know, that closed because Mike died. Yes.
And we'll be in there as of Friday. Green Mountain Traffic Control is leasing the space.
Excellent.
Effective, well, February 1st.
Wonderful.
So we'll be in there for the next 2 years.
Terrific. Great. Welcome.
So no more vacancies.
So no more vacancies. And I don't think that there are many downtowns in the state that can actually say that all of their ground floor spaces have tenants. And when we only have a few upper floor vacancies, even in some of our buildings that have businesses in the upper floors. So that's a huge testament to a wonderful, vibrant downtown. Our Shop Local program, as usual, it was a big success. As we did the previous year, last year, we expanded it for a 2-month period, starting November 1 and going until December 31. We had over 60 merchants that participated, and by participating, they stamped cards for people who spent money in their businesses, but it also was an opportunity for them to be promoted on radio and Facebook and at the movie theater and a whole bunch of places. And so I think that does a lot to help promote what we have here and the diversity of what we have. We did award over 90 prizes that were donated by the participant businesses. And I'm happy to say that probably 2/3 of those have actually already been picked up, which is great. So,
How do you find out about them?
Excuse me?
How do you find out if you got a prize?
We post a list on Facebook, and then I call or email every single person who wins.
Okay.
So they're contacted personally, and so that's how you know.
Because I was asked that, I said I didn't know, I just thought it was up to the person just to go and look to see if they won.
Well, that would be ideal, and it would be
Okay.
time-saving, but we feel,
Okay.
like I said, we personally contact everybody whose name gets drawn
Okay.
for the prize. And you can pick them up at our office, which is upstairs over People's United Bank, or by arrangement, the bookstore has been great about taking the prizes, and because they're available more hours than BIFTA is, and so they can be picked up there as well if you arrange that. We have applied for a grant from National Life Foundation. We did talk to the board, Gary Fox and I, a little bit about that application. We will find out in March whether or not we have been awarded the grant, but as you know, it is to do some updating of our streetscape in the square. So if we get the grant, then we'll be back to you to get the kinds of information and recommendations and approvals that we need. But that's just to let you know about that. We also are considering Many of you may know that we used to have white lights in the downtown street trees, and we're considering putting those back there again. We're doing some research to see about the cost and what would be involved, and so if we do feel we can do that, obviously, we probably have to come and talk to you or talk to the tree wardens or whoever, so that we do everything, the way it ought to be done.
The only thing that jumps to my mind about that is timing. You'll want to make sure that we know your plans for that if we are considering doing any type of pruning,
Oh, yeah.
cutback downtown.
Yes, because inevitably, that's what happened to the lights. Inevitably was that after a couple of tree prunings, some of the lights were cut, not purposefully, but accidentally,
I
of
just think
course.
it would be pretty rough if you had to look at putting them all up all over again
Oh,
when you got
absolutely.
them up.
Absolutely. So that's just an FYI. I'd like to thank Shane for giving up his parking place so that we could site the Christmas tree next to the town hall. Because of the renovations happening at the Yellow Building, in the past, the person who owned that building donated the power for the lights for the Christmas tree. But they didn't have any power in their building and were using a generator for their other kinds of rebuilding activities. So we needed to find another spot. I think it was actually a really great spot in that it allowed people to go up to the tree and have pictures taken in front of the tree on the day of the meeting of the movie at the movie theater that the Rotary always does. Lots of kids went outside and had their picture taken with the tree. And so I think it was a nice location, and I don't know whether or not that will happen again, but I thought the tree looked very nice, and thanks to Public Works for doing all the work. And again, thank you, Shane, for giving up your parking space and walking for the month that it was up.
I need to walk more.
We had totally refreshed all of our street holiday decorations, and we will be removing them soon. But as you know, it has been not great weather for doing that sort of thing in long stretches of really cold weather, but we will be taking those down soon, and thanks to our volunteers who help us to do that. I know that there's a lot of talk about the parking ordinances in the Ordinance Review Committee, and I think I've really given suggestions over time to both boards about things that BIFTA thinks is important to consider in the parking ordinance, and thank you for listening to our input and taking that into consideration as you update those ordinances. Again, I hope that, I'm told that BIFTA's funding is in the town budget, and I hope it will also be in the village budget going forward. It's really vital to us. It's not easy to raise money for administrative costs. I'm the only employee, and I'm a 15-hour-a-week employee. If we didn't have the downtown organization, we wouldn't have downtown designation, and we wouldn't be eligible for all the benefits and grants and those sorts of things, as well as the network with the state. And in the past 5 years, because of our downtown designation, we've leveraged over $5 million in tax credits for building rehabilitation, and over $500,000 of private investment that has gone into those rehabilitations. The redevelopment of the Wyndham Hotel and the Robbie Paper Mill have also benefited through grants that came through designated downtown. Special preference because of being a designated downtown, such as planning grants and community development block grants. And so I think it's a good bang for your buck, and I hope you think so too. I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments, but I'd be happy to hear those at this point.
Anyone?
I'm good.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay.
Our next item is traffic safety, V-Trans.
I was going to recommend we maybe move that on because our auditor's here. Would that be okay?
Any, all right, we'll just move that down to, we'll just,
Swap places.
Just swap it?
yeah. All
I'd love
right.
to hear about traffic safety.
Stick around, then. Feel free.
All right, so
With us is Ron Smith, who's the auditor for both the town and the village, has been for the past 3 years, and as you know, the board's also approved his proposal for the next 3 years. So it's going to be a good, long relationship, and he's here to go over the draft budgets that we've distributed. And so if you have questions, or if, Ron, you want to just...
Would you like me to get up right here?
Yeah, sounds good.
So I'm Ron Smith. This was the third year of our proposal. We do nothing but the world of government and nonprofit. We do 500 in the state of Maine and Vermont. So we know a lot about who you are and what you are. I'll talk about Rockingham first. I'm not going to go over 90 pages of that document, so I'll hit the highlights. How about that for a few minutes and answer any questions that you may have. But I'll start with Rockingham. Financially sound, your town. Operating budget of about $5 million. We like to see 30, 60, 90 days of your operating budget sitting in surplus. What that means, to put a value on it, somewhere around, so just bear with me, it's been a long day, $450,000, 900, 1.3. You're at about 90 days in the town of Rockingham for carryover balance. I think that that's financially healthy for that town. And you were about there last year. The reason being for this year, you actually expected it to go down. It actually stayed the same because Rockingham has usually returned money back to its bottom line to reappropriate the next year. And I think Public Works was the biggest contributor to that in 2017. So you're at 90 days. I understand there's some talk about using some of that money for your 2019 budget, that you're coming in now. I had some conversation with you all, and certainly I know that I endorsed your plan, for lack of a better word. Talking points, again, in the town of Rockingham. The thing that comes to mind would probably be the theater. You have it classified as an enterprise fund. Nobody at that listen, I'm a big fan of that theater. I think that those are certainly lost arts in the state of Vermont. I hail from the town of St. Johnsbury. We're lucky to have something similar up there. There's a big cost to it. And I don't think it's going to be self-sufficient today, tomorrow, or probably ever. And one of the things that I would talk to you about is certainly reclassifying that, because you've got it as an enterprise fund on your financial statements. And I think that needs to be moved over into a special revenue fund. What's the difference? Enterprise fund, self-sufficient, pay for itself. And your operating fees are anywhere from $30,000 to $60,000 a year before depreciation from doing that. So I don't think that it's feasible or financially viable, to continue that and say that it's going to be self-sufficient. So I think one of the things next year, that we probably ought to have some discussion, at the management level, is to reclassify in Rockingham that from an enterprise fund to a special revenue fund. It doesn't meet and has not met in our relationship the criteria of being self-sufficient or an enterprise fund. And that would probably be the biggest talking point in that water. You have a financially healthy community development fund with a little over $270,000 in it to carry over for reappropriation for loans in the community development into the area. You've got a library fund that has, I believe, over $250,000 in there for carryover balance. Rockingham's financially sound, and I certainly give you a report card, probably a B+ on Rockingham. So, Bellows Falls, kind of a tale of a village and a city here. Not so. No, there's the weaker financial link. Sorry, trustees, but there's the weaker financial link of the town. It's had some pains, some sufferings. Certainly, the big conversation piece I think is in 17 was the settlement with or abatement with TransCanada, and the payback. Bellows Falls just could not could not financially afford that payback. The village came in, perfectly permissible, lent them money, and I believe we paid town came in to lend the village money, about $76,000, I believe, payable back 3 or 5 years?
5 years.
5 years. So again, perfectly permissible, something you have to build into your budget for the next 5 years in the village to pay the town back. You have an operating budget in the village of about $2 million. We like to see your surplus, again, at 30, 60, 90 days. What's that? Somewhere around 160, 320, 480. So where are you in your village? $63,000. So certainly, less than about 10 to 15 days on average during the year. Yeah, there's some struggles, there. And I think what kind of exasperates it a little bit, the village is busy. You've got a lot of projects going on here, in this area. And with your wastewater project and the EPA, there's a lot of money going through there. $2 million, I believe, this past year in federally guaranteed grants, for the village for a variety of projects that you've got going on there. And water, wastewater, I think they're two financially healthy funds. That you've got more than 90 days of your budget in there, applying the same benchmark. So the good news is that you're operating two utility districts, within your municipality and the village, but they've got some money to operate and sustain, some financial indulgence. The village doesn't. The operating fund of the village doesn't. So, and that really can put a strain on the cash flow in the village. And I think your water department is actually more financially healthy than your wastewater department in the village. I'm sure of that.
That's true.
I'm sure of it. So the talking point in the village, clearly the general fund. Clearly, I think that we've taught it during our relationship. It's always been a talking point, and that's something that I think will challenge you as boards. Over the next foreseeable few years, to really get that pointed in the right direction. The good news is you're not in a deficit. That's the good news. You have something to work from. The not so better news is the fact that you don't have a lot to work there. You're lean. So, and many times the town will come to the aid financially of the village during the course of the year, and that just shows. And I would say that that's the big talking piece with the village.
What do you recommend? I mean, you do an audit, you talk about the financial health, but you make recommendations like for the theater fund. It's not really an enterprise fund, you say. So you've changed it to a proprietary?
No, it's a proprietary fund. An enterprise fund is what it is now. We would say because it doesn't meet the definition of that would be reclassified into a special revenue fund.
Okay. So what about the village? Do you have recommendations? How did it get to that point?
Well, I think it's deteriorated over the course of time, probably the past 5 or 6 years. You've always been lean and mean, and if it's the choices of this village board, to run a lean and mean budget, there's the choices to certainly try to keep not much money in there, that choice has certainly been successful over the past few years. The only other way to build that back is through contingencies. It's through surplus. It's through raising your tax rate. But you've artificially kept that tax rate by using money from the village, using money to throw at projects, and over the past few years, that's really depleted your surplus. And plus you've had some other extraordinary expenses, like this abatement, and I think the village's share was $76,000, for that. So there's been some things that have kind of exasperated the financial condition, but I don't think you can just point to one thing. So I think that what you need to do is to step by step, because you're not going to do it overnight, because if you did, it'd have to be on the shoulders of the taxpayers, and I wouldn't do that if I were you. I would have a plan, and that plan is to do exactly what you did. Use the village as an avenue to pay an obligation of the village, pay it back over 5 years so that you can start gradually building back your surplus in the village. I think you've done and addressed that. Any other ways? You have some revenue problems, and let's face it. And the only other way that you're going to be able to generate that revenue is through taxation, and I think it's been through the wishes of the trustees of the village to try to keep that constant so you don't shoulder the burden onto the taxpayers. So it's not an overnight fix. It wasn't an overnight problem that got you there. I think it was a problem that that gradually over the course of time it happened. The good news is you're not in a deficit. So.
Well, being on the select board for a number of years, we either level funded the budget, we didn't raise taxes, but because of that, we didn't do projects.
Yep.
So now going forward, we're looking at, an increase in our taxes, which we feel comfortable doing because we have projects. We have 2 bridges that are literally falling down. We have a lot of roads to be paved, potholes, et cetera, sidewalks. So if we did them all, we'd be running a deficit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, we need to make it clear going forward that there will be, even a slight tax increase, because we have a lot of catch up. I don't think we're any better than the village. We just did not do these projects.
I think that has to be part of the solution to getting healthy. I agree.
To do what?
so you could have a tax increase. I completely agree. It's just the timing of that tax increase, and I think with some things beyond your control over the past couple of years, you know, if the trustees choose to make a willful choice that this may not be the year for that, or have it being mitigated, or make some sacrifices and put some of those projects off to a future year, those are the choices you're gonna have to make for the next 2 or 3 years. So, in my opinion.
But then it's more expensive when you finally do
It may be, but again, if you can convince your taxpayers that cost is an issue and the time is now to do it, you know, and you can prove the savings, then if I'm a taxpayer, you're going to convince me, you know, you've got to sell to me that now is the time where it's time for a tax increase, and the question is going to be how much, you know, and if you tell me that the time's now to save money down the road, I'm all ears, and I think that those are the things you're going to need to do over the next few years collaboratively with the town and the village, absolutely. So you're in it together, you know, and hopefully someday the village will come to the assistance of the town. That's always the hope. So, and maybe that was in the past. I just don't have enough history, you know, with you. But you know, but clearly maybe that was the way in the past. But right now, you know, the village needs some help.
Any,
Yeah, I have a question going back to the theater fund. Can you explain how the depreciation that's in there, how does that get calculated?
Yeah, so-
Because it's always a losing enterprise.
So two things. So great question. It's an arithmetic number. I don't make it up. We have standards that basically say, based upon a building improvements and what's inside the contents of that room, there's an arithmetic and a science on how to charge that every year. It's almost like an obsolescence charge. My perfect example is when you drive a car off the parking lot, it loses value. It doesn't gain value, it loses value. Same with that theater. So, and then the cost of maintenance. So there's a cost put on that every year. And I believe in the theater's case, it's about somewhere between $60,000 and $65,000 of depreciation, which is paper, but it's a real number. And the theory behind that is that you, as agents of the town's money, custodians, should be saying there's wear and tear on it. We should set some of that money aside for wear and tear, you know, future maintenance, you know, and possible expansion at that theater. And you just haven't had the ability to do that because it's not generating enough money. And I believe that roughly about $250,000, I think, that's a busy theater too. And $250,000 for what you're charging and the entertainment, you know, and just the community conversation that theater presents. It's not, it's something I'm sure supported by your public, but just the charges alone to bring the people in the door, you know, to be entertained, are about $30,000 to $40,000, anywhere from actually $30,000 to $60,000 short a year. That's before depreciation. So not only do you not have enough money to cover operations, to cover that future wear and tear, you don't have enough money for that either.
But this depreciation that's not put on other, I mean, it's because it's an enterprise fund, that's why it's put on there. You don't
Different
see it in the
accounting
library,
standard.
you don't see it in the.
So a couple of things, another good question. Different accounting standards. So the presentation is under enterprise funds, it's like a business. If you run a business, that's the way an enterprise is supposed to be run, and that's why they say it's supposed to be self-sufficient. Because businesses are run in the for-profit world to make money, we are all in hopes of. You know, but in your general fund budget, you don't budget for depreciation. You know, you may budget for capital transfers to your reserve funds, but you don't budget for depreciation. Nor, you know, will you see it on one of those statements. You'll see it on a special statement because of certain accounting pronouncements that say, okay, make the town look like a business. So we actually have a supplementary schedule in there. We actually do, you know, record depreciation on your infrastructure for the town. But enterprise funds are different creatures. And if you were to, as I would suggest, classify that from an enterprise fund to a special revenue fund, there will be no depreciation charge, and that will be part of the town's general-wide government depreciation.
But the town isn't a business. We provide services, so technically we are not a business.
But you're a governmental business. You're not a business like my accounting firm or your town's attorney. You are paid and supported substantially through taxation. My business isn't. You've been given special taxing rights, you've been given special borrowing rights as an instrumentality in political subdivision of the state of Vermont. So that puts you in a whole different playing field than a business. Your enterprise fund doesn't have those same taxing authority statutes. You know, they don't have those opportunities that you have as a political subdivision of the state. They're granted, you know, but under your umbrella, certain opportunities, but not taxing opportunity. And if they are, then it's not an enterprise fund. That's my point.
Okay, Tom.
In addition to renaming the fund of the theater, shouldn't we continue to try to find ways to make it self-sufficient?
Absolutely.
I just,
Yeah. This is on our, I think, on our agenda, right, for February 2nd, to talk about the theater club? Did that get on the agenda? Maybe we're going to do it in the next February meeting. I know we spoke about talking about the theater coming up on one of our select.
We can
board.
check on it.
on which?
You put it on the
I
agenda.
thought we put it on February 2nd, but maybe because we were scheduled.
February 6th, you mean?
Whatever that date, yeah, whatever the next one is.
I think it is.
Because we were talking, I mean, it has
We
been a
can.
concern of us, because it's not very, it gets very cloudy. I mean, we're highly subsidizing that theater with our tax dollars, and it's not very clear when you look at, when you have to go deep into the details to see that. And we really want to make it very clear.
And that's why I don't want you to go deep in the details as you're outside of looking at it. I just want to draw some attention to it and just understand if that's something that the community wants to continue to support, there's a cost associated with it, just like any other choice that they make for any other town
Yeah,
department.
for the rec center or whatever
Absolutely.
else that we're supporting,
Absolutely.
you know, to provide this service for our people. Right. Sure.
And yeah, he did, God, don't you?
Mhm.
Okay. Chip Stearns.
Chip Stearns. Ron, question. I actually had in my notes the same subject you just talked about, converting that fund. A simple way I think you can understand it is if you read the balance sheet and you look at the due from account, that is cash equivalent to what goes on. As of the end of 17, the due from is $143,000 in the negative. So one of my suggestions would be that the general fund surplus, you're talking about $280,000. One half of that, simply by journal entry and authority of the select board, can be transferred over to that fund that clears that due from. It doesn't mean you've moved any real cash, but you've taken that fund, made it whole on its cash activity. It has lost probably $15,000 a year since the day it opened on actual operating. So your supporting of it is true in that you've been giving it cash and not actually transferring any value of that cash over there. And so that was a subject matter before I left that needed to be addressed, and I'm glad Ron's bringing it up tonight. But that's one of the things you could do with that so-called surplus that you've got in excess of your fund balance. It is useful to the town to make that fund whole before they turn around and suck it in, if you will, as a special revenue fund.
Thank you. Any other specific questions? Well, no. Thank you for
Light
the
reading.
report.
Oh, it's like, boy, I'll tell you, it'll put you to sleep fast, man.
I think I did take a nap when I read
But we're only a phone call away. Any other future meeting, I'm in the area all the time. I look forward to certainly coming and being a sounding board for you all, you know, when that time's asked to be. Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a great pleasure.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, Ron.
New item 3 is traffic safety, V-Trans. Not here? All right, well, we'll move on to, just do another swap.
You guys are supposed to be here?
Yeah, was someone supposed to come for that, or what was the plan? on that one?
Just
Or
supposed to
did-
discuss
What was the
it.
plan?
Did you have,
Cass was going to invite
I can,
someone.
yeah.
but we can, so I'm assuming, was that going to go into item 4 as well, public safety and the road weight limit?
I think they're related, yeah.
So
I can
we can move.
speak on both, if the boards would like. In preparing for tonight, I look back over the work I did late last autumn, perusing Rockingham Street, Westminster Street Square, looking at light yield, visibility, conspicuity. And I put that up against the several conversations that I have had with various officials at VTrans and the DMV, and also what Shane shared with me from his discussions with him. And I put that all in the mix, looking at it, and I came to basically one chain of priorities. That is that we've come to some set conclusions about these difficulties. We've all agreed that the weight limit is a concern architecturally for our village, for the wear on our roads. Also, as an element in public safety, if I can, I want to part from that just a moment to give an example I was considering today, because a lot of times when I bring up the tractor-trailer traffic and the safety issue, the one thing I hear is, well, everyone speeds in the square. It's a concern for all drivers, but I want to point out this one important aspect. When a passenger car is driven at an average of 25 miles an hour, the driver is distracted and a collision is imminent with a pedestrian. On average, that driver coming aware has 0.95 second to react. In a lot of cases, that's enough. Scares everybody, it's a close call, wakes you up real good. But there is an element of rescue there. When you're talking about a tractor trailer, all those physics crash off the board. A distracted driver, even slightly distracted, tractor trailer driver going 5 miles over the limit, as we often see them doing to the square. When you approach that type of accidental collision, and he has that last moment awareness, he cannot stop that vehicle in time. There's also the survivability of being struck by a passenger car as opposed to a tractor trailer. And I won't go any further into that. I just want to make that element clear, because quite often I hear people say, well, yeah, tractor trailers, but regular drivers are a problem too. They are. But the survivability and the danger aspect really is a different kettle of fish entirely. Having said that, I looked at all the different elements, and what became clear to me is we've been told several times by VTrans and the DMV that moving ahead conservatively, we have the authority to re-sign our village for weight considerations and traffic considerations, moving ahead conservatively. We understand this. We still have a lot of questions. We still have a lot of concerns. I think at this point, I'd like to respectfully suggest that these goals at this point be turned over at this juncture to our colleagues on the Board of Trustees, because the one missing element from my lights to looking at this problem is enforcement and monitoring. And that has come up with several conversations I've been in with various officials at VTrans. They've all said, you can do this, but be aware that an important element to consider is how well will the new rules be enforced, and who will be in charge of monitoring the traffic with the new rules in place. And in our community, to me, that comes down to the Bells Falls Police Department.
But how can they be there for every speeding truck?
I don't think they can, but I think the word would get out very quickly, theoretically, if we put up the new signage, put the new rules in place. I think the word would get out very quickly in the over-road trucking community that you can no longer just go negligently through the village of Bells Falls. And really, I have sat here, I have spent hours, various days, watching the traffic in this square. And some of the passage you see coming through of these 53-foot tractor trailers is shocking. So that's my final suggestion, is at this juncture, we turn this goal over to the Board of Trustees, as they have responsibility with the local law enforcement, and I really think that's the missing piece of the puzzle. That's the missing party at the table, if you will.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
So, the select board is responsible for something like signage.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about traffic calming devices, speed bumps, for example?
Right there, you get right into Public Works and the Highway Department. They don't want any permanent road surface changes.
Because we're paving the downtown, so it would seem, it's just an idea, because you can't have the police there monitoring every.
I have had dialogue with Mike about that.
Yeah.
And this gentleman has insight, I'm sure.
And looking back at the minutes, we have discussed this to the point where I thought signs were being ordered 4 months ago. It was reported that signs were in the works, you were working on the signs every time I would ask.
Mhm.
And then here it says, O'Keefe stated that he's still discussing with V-Trans and the Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns. So I feel at this point, we're still waiting for an answer. I don't know as we're still discussing this. It seems, I'm a little confused how we're discussing this again when we've given direction for action.
Is there a final report from V-Trans?
I've been getting conflicting reports from V-Trans, depending on who you speak to, because there are two different, and I discussed this with you a few days ago. There's a couple of, and actually I have if you want to see a memo I've sent to, or excuse me, an email I sent to V-Trans, but there are two different sections of the law dealing with vehicle weight. One indicates that it's a 24,000-pound limitation on town highways, Class 2, Class 3 town highways. This is a Class 2, and that's what it is. But there's also another provision in the law that says in a village, in an incorporated village, the weight limits are per the state standard, state highway system. And so there's competing statutes. I've asked VLCT, they gave me one opinion. I'm still waiting to hear, from some others as well, so it's not as clear. What we could do is, and we talked about this also, is the town and or the village could establish an ordinance that says it is 24,000 pounds on this road length, put up a sign pursuant to MUTCD on both sides, and it's done. But at the same time, if that first statute that states that everything in the village is at the state weight limits, then where does the signage stop? You're doing every single road, and it just doesn't make sense.
If I could make, I don't know, I have to say one final recommendation, because, I can go on all night. But one further suggestion that might simplify the whole thing is if we just get away from the numbers entirely and consider putting up signage that says no through tractor trailer traffic in our village. Stay on 5. 5 is Atkinson Street. 5 is not this.
Oh, 5, this is 5.
No, it isn't.
Not 5.
5 is Atkinson Street.
No, not according to the state maps.
I've never been 5. But my point is, a lot of the tractor trailers, and you can get right behind them in your car and follow them and prove it for yourself. They come through the village, they get to the stop sign, and they go straight through. So it begs the question, if you are coming from there and you're continuing on 5, why did you make that turn away from Atkinson Street?
Well, the reason is one of the reasons, if you're going to New Hampshire,
But
you can't take that other turn on the right
See,
without
most-
crossing the double yellow
most of them
lines.
don't.
But,
Most of them go straight through. Why?
Gaetano.
so, there was no snow on the ground last time we discussed this, when the DMV officer came to town randomly, and I spoke with him one day. He was parked over there. While we were talking, a loaded log truck with a pup trailer full of logs went by. I would say, above the speed limit and clearly wasn't a local delivery. And I said, what about that guy? And he said, I stopped him yesterday. He's 99,000 pounds, which is not
Jesus.
illegal. So I think some of us would like to make that illegal for the square. Because he's not delivering logs, and we put up signs that say that and then enforce it. Currently, just to follow, the crosswalks, which we've discussed, are non-existent right now. And at nighttime, you cannot see a crosswalk. It's the state law that pedestrian can walk out, and they're in a crosswalk, you hit them, it's your fault. They could be wearing black clothes. There's no visible crosswalks, there's no signs, there's no lights. And we've also been discussing this for a really long time with no
As far as the weight limit
action.
Yeah.
signs, I guess Deb.
Yeah.
Before someone gets killed, I'd like to try to
Do something.
resolve that.
Yeah. Page 22 with the motor vehicle ordinance. The last page, which talks about trucks.
You have a title and statute number?
It's under Title 23 of the statutes, the Vermont statutes. And it says, this is Article 7, on trucks. Operation regulation, the trustees from time to time may adopt rules and regulations relating to truck travel and parking within the village. Said regulations shall be included as part of the parking and traffic regulations. As used in this section, trucks shall include jitneys, motor buses, motorized highway building equipment, and tractors as those terms are defined in Title 23 of the Vermont statutes, and any other motor vehicle which is not a motorcycle, pleasure car, or motor truck of 5,000 pounds or less, as more particularly defined in Title 23, with fines and penalties. This is an old statute, old ordinance. It's been here for quite some time in the village. We have the right, according to this, following Title 23, to post about trucks going through the village.
So I think the good solution, I'll get to you in a moment, Pat, is just that we have been talking about this, is that we don't have to post just because it might infer that we have to put signs on every single road within the village. We can just choose to put those signs along Westminster Street. That's the one
Along with what?
relevant through traffic.
Westminster through Rockingham Street.
Westminster
the
through
square.
Rockingham,
Yep.
yes. We can just choose to do that. That's,
But in devil's advocate, when you quote that statute without me reading it,
Right?
so what are we going to do? Are we going to bang every driver that drives a 1-ton pickup truck through
Yeah,
there?
well, I
Or
would if it's depending what the sign
3/4 ton,
says.
Or a 3/4 ton pickup?
Well, everyone that the police catch. And that's basically how it goes.
and if it's not safe, but we did have comment. Pat, yes.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, it wouldn't do anything about these loggers, but can we speak to the various trucking companies that are located in our area, west, we have several south of us and north of us, and discuss it with them and try to, work as a good neighbor?
I believe-
Obviously, the loggers, we can't, that won't solve
It
it.
has been done.
It has been done?
Right.
If I could speak on it for a moment. I spent a lot of time looking at these streets and these roads, and every day, virtually every day, I see a trucking company come through that not only have I never seen in this town, I've never heard of. There are probably a dozen firms in the area that do truck back and forth through our town with great regularity. But I'd be willing to bet that there are hundreds of others who may come through a day or two a year from Quebec, Missouri, Illinois, Florida.
Yeah,
that you
I don't
would never
think
know how to reach.
speaking to the companies is going to resolve.
It's a step, but the reality is we have to do multi-level. You can't just say one thing is going to solve the problem.
I'll try to find the towns that have them, but they have a sign, they have signs when you enter their nice village that'll say legal, village load limit. It'll have a sign with a picture of a truck, how many axles you have, local deliveries only, the weight of your truck. That's what we need to determine the weight and the size. Local deliveries, people fueling, we'll take that into consideration. They're allowed to be here, but that one company you spoke to, they're the biggest offenders. I am downtown every day in a building full of windows, and I see it every single day. there's no crosswalk anymore in front of the business. There's no crosswalks. These trucks are not gonna be able to stop. They're overweight, they're destroying, we're about to spend a bunch of money on the building, on the roads. And I think it's time we put something in place that either we vote that we all support that, or we just keep letting it happen.
Well, I think we can make an agreement that, I mean, we'll put something in the ordinances.
Well, yes, but
specific.
I think still the board needs to make boards need to make a motion to move forward on this item.
I'm sorry, my last squawk on the subject, I promise. Bottom line, I do not understand why we can't resolve to put up simple signage that says, tractor trailer through traffic, stay on 5. Both ends. If they just stay on 5, we've solved our problem. As far as making it onto the bridge, folks, that's not our problem. My heart goes out too, I understand. They gotta do it, they gotta find a way. That's what they're in business for. We're in business to protect our community. A simple sign that says, tractor trailer through traffic, stay on 5.
With an arrow pointing to what's.
So they know where 5 is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And not
there it
looking at
is,
their
yeah.
GPS,
I
yeah.
think if you're gonna do that, we should establish a size and axles and weight, because, you know, can an empty 10-wheeler go through here?
I'm thinking about 18-wheel. I'm talking about
I understand, but if a
53-footers.
loaded 10-wheeler goes through here, it doesn't need to go through here.
Then
Let's
it
just
has to be
establish a policy.
That
and-
if there is like a police officer or perhaps a civil officer in the future, they have to have a guideline to be able to write the ticket. So we should have definitions.
We should, but in the meantime, don't we want to establish doing a sign, some signage, perhaps tasking the manager to come back with a couple of forms of whatever they would be for approval, for board approval, to move forward on this item, which continues to languish, just like many of the other items we have on the board.
We can pass a feel-good ordinance, but unless we have the element of, or a mechanism of the enforcement, which there doesn't.
It's in our own ordinances.
You have that, but do we have the resources, or do you want to allocate the resources and put some bite into the bark? Meaning, the police department will have to be actively out there monitoring at times or consistently.
But the ordinance,
And then,
we can at least get it in writing, and so that way when in happier times, when we can have the enforcement. And we
Right.
just made a motion about
Well,
having
yeah, I
enforcement.
understand that.
If the select board is putting up a sign, the village supports and enforces. So we could agree on something. If we had something, would anyone like to make a motion to move forward on this item, or do you want to continue to talk about it?
The town has. They've directed me to do that, and I've continued looking into it to see, to make sure that we do it the right way. We've contacted folks from the state who are the sign office to meet with us to go over this. We've dealt with DMV on it, and again, there's some differences, even at the state level, as to which statutes apply. In fact, if you look at the way the statutes are written, they can't, under the way the rules are written, issue an overweight permit in a Class 2 road. They can do an oversized, but not an overweight. I don't think, they don't agree with that when I brought it up to them.
But there are a number of communities, we're not reinventing the wheel here, that are already doing exactly what we need to do.
but I believe one of those communities, when I checked, they have some training in commercial vehicle enforcement. I'm not sure, I think we might have had one back a few years ago that was trained in commercial vehicle enforcement. So that's gonna make a difference, as far as if you're gonna be writing tickets and there should be town ordinances, I agree, so that when they write those tickets, that the monies, instead of going to the state, would.
Right, or civil, there's have to be
Right.
civil. If you write them as
Yeah.
criminal tickets, they go to the state. If you write them as civil tickets, they come here.
All right,
Well, they're going to
I
get
know.
a civil ticket, but I mean, you have to have an ordinance, which, like the village did with the town a few years ago for patrolling of 121, Route 5, and 103. We made ordinances that covered the stop signs and the speed limits, that when a citation was written or a uniform traffic ticket, that those monies came back to the town, and then dispersed, however,
split, yeah.
at that time, there was an agreement, which I believe is still in force, correct me if I'm wrong.
It's still in force.
Whether we divide up them funds or,
Right.
Yeah.
It's in the agreement, yeah.
Gaetano.
Intermunicipal.
So while we continue to wait for the manager to get the answer, the answer may come back different than what, we could just establish what we want as per the statute you just read.
well, I don't mean to fence with a fellow board member, I'm not trying to do that, but
No, I'm just
It's 5,000,
responding
yeah.
to
but from my
Shane's.
experience, and correct
Comment.
me if I'm wrong,
If we're waiting for an answer, the answer may come back and they say it's 24,000 pounds.
well, we can't,
Because that's what we were told it
we
was.
can't enact an ordinance that would be contradictory to a state statute.
We could make our own ordinance.
Read Title 23, the subsection 1008 covers pretty much
it's done in
everything
other
for motor
towns.
vehicles and parking.
Actually, we are what is called Dillon's rule
Uh-huh.
versus home rule,
Right.
right? So Dillon's rule means basically we can do whatever we want here for a sign. So I think, I agree with you.
Until someone takes you to court. No,
No.
wait, no,
No,
home
not-
rule
the other way
is the
around.
way around.
Not whatever, no. Dillon's means that we can, Rockingham, we can basically put up a sign that states our needs.
But you
That's
cannot
home rule.
That's
exceed.
home rule, not Dillon's, yeah.
Well, I thought we were.
We're Dillon's,
It's a Dillon rule state, not a home rule state.
right.
Dillon's rule states, so excuse me, so meaning our municipality can do a sign to meet our needs.
As long as it doesn't contravene state law.
Right.
Right.
But
from what Deb read,
they
I
have
don't
other
think this
signs,
is
he says,
contravening
that
state
are
law.
basically contradicting state law.
And I'm not-
I don't think he said that, it just, there's,
I don't know if they're contradicting
Yeah,
state
I
law,
can't
but I've
imagine they
seen
would.
them and I will find out where they are. And
good.
One example out of
it
memory.
says local delivery only.
Right.
You don't see,
Yeah. Well, we had another one
I don't know.
from my history and experience on the board,
Brattleboro.
and I'm not.
You wouldn't see an over
and I'm not an attorney, but
99,000 pound log.
we had a
truck.
discussion of this when, what's his name was here? Worked for Holmes Transportation there, I can't remember, Stanley. And there was an effort to come up with signage that said, no use of Jake brakes. And if I remember correctly from that time period, you can't tell somebody or have a law that tells somebody not to use a safety device.
If it's flat, I think.
That was the case in
That's not what we're
Chester.
doing.
Chester.
Chester Stone
Stone
Village, they
Village.
used to have signs up
Right.
saying, no Jake brake usage, until somebody
So,
Contested
took
it.
that up to Montpelier. And
Exactly.
he said, technically, as loud and annoying as they are, a Jake brake is a safety device.
yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to
That doesn't
fence with my
apply.
fellow board
Yeah,
members,
we're
select
just-
board
we're
of
just asking
trustees,
them
to
but
go
I'm
a
just
certain
going
way.
from past history. There's a reason why I'm throwing up
What are we doing?
Great
A
question.
motion to.
Nothing at this point.
So let's make a
No, we
motion
have
to
to
do
do
something.
Okay, well, then you guys may have to make one separately from us, because we're different.
Well, my thoughts are, is cut through the mustard, and whoever, whether it's Jake Alaverta up there in motor vehicles, which I think maybe could provide a lot of information, or if you're not getting what you feel we ought to be getting in a proper time frame, go directly to the commissioner's office. I mean, I can give you the telephone number. That usually ends a lot of this, this one has this one has that. You get to the top, and I guarantee you'll probably get a definite answer of which, they'll tell us which direction we can go in without any, per se, bumps in the road. And we won't be spending a bunch of money on signs. You know, I mean, I agree with what you people are saying, and I concur with that. But signs are expensive. They could be $300 to $400, maybe $500 a piece. Before we make that investment in signs that we would later find out that we cannot use or are improper, let's get a definite answer. Yes, it's gone on too long, but maybe we need to
I fully
bump
agree
it
with
up the
that.
ladder up north and
I fully
get a
agree with that,
definite
but we've
answer.
been waiting for an answer
I agree
for
with you.
6 months. Do you have a number that we could get the answer?
I will come up with one between now and tomorrow morning
We have
for
a-
you.
Joe Brissett.
Yeah, you're making this harder than it has to be, right? You paved that square 3 years ago, it's chewed up. You got triaxle dump trucks loaded, going through the square, they got a construction project somewhere, so they're trucking stuff from Walpole 10 times a day.
Yep.
The roads are chewed up, you just paved them 3 years ago. It's real simple. Make the ordinance, make them fight you to take the signs down. Put up the signs. Just put them up, 24,000. You got enough facts already to justify a motion. Make the motion, put up the signs. Have the police chief contact local contractors, give them heads up. Say, hey, the signs go up at the end of the week. Anybody, any of your drivers go down the square, they're gonna get a ticket. You put one of those trucks on the side with 3 lights blazing, flashing next to them, every trucker is gonna see it. Everybody's on their cell phone saying they're ticketing us. We're not going through the
Avoid the
square.
square.
It's
Right.
that easy.
I-
You make something as simple as putting up some signs
Right.
so hard. It's
Joe,
crazy.
Joe,
I drove down here because I'm watching this
Joe,
on TV.
I agree with you, but it's not that simple.
No,
For
you
one,
don't. You
yeah.
don't agree with me at all. Make the motion and say yes.
I don't agree with
Put
you
up the signs.
with tell the police chief to write a ticket, because that exceeds our authority. But I can tell you right now, without asking the police chief, no, I'm not finished yet. The police chief would be hard pressed to write a uniform traffic ticket, expect it to stand up in court, or have the state's attorney back it, if it's not based on legitimate legal signage or a legitimate
It's fine to
statute or
step
law.
up and act on behalf of the citizens of this town who paid to have this freaking road repaved.
Right, I agree with you,
Period.
but it's,
End right there. No more.
no, it's not that
Make the
simple.
motion. This hurts my ears.
Gaetano.
One more comment. I tend to agree that once the word gets out, they all talk to each other. So, and that the village police department could hold that vehicle for an hour. That's in the same statute. So what will happen is the word will get out.
It'll curb
No,
itself.
So do we have the motions? If there's no other.
Well, the select board's made the motion, it's on me to get it done. I've been trying to work to find out what the rules of the road are before we put up signs
So
that
we're
are legal.
amending
And I'm
it.
continuing to work on it, and it's just, we've been working on the budget and
amending
a lot of
it.
other things.
Then I
We're
would-
amending it with a 24,000-pound limit, local delivery only, added to the,
I didn't hear.
I
a
don't
motion.
think you can do the local.
well, we've made
This
one.
is a
We've
I don't think
made
you can do the
one.
Previous
local,
meeting.
the only thing you can do is limit the weight. And
No, you
then-
could, because if an 18-wheeler needs to fuel at Coda's, then we can't say you can't do
Can't do
that.
that.
Finish what I'm saying is that you can, on an annual basis, issue overweight permits to, different companies that you'd like to do that with. So that is something you can do. And it's done every year in March, I believe.
And we do periodically do that, do
Joe,
we
just a
not?
moment.
Every March.
Every year.
I would just say the village, at least, I'll make the motion that the village ordinance committee,
Tomorrow, yeah.
makes, puts in, revises the ordinance to put in the £24,000 weight limit for traffic through Westminster Square, Rockingham Street. But Deb, and then back to Joe.
Well,
I would say to the bridge.
I would second it for
Second.
discussion. However, the ordinance already says anything over 5,000. Over 5,000 pounds.
The ordinance or the statute?
The statute,
Okay.
excuse me,
Yeah.
the ordinance says that, and
Okay.
it says, it references Title 23. Of course, we have to double check that, but that's what it says. Anything, it's saying things that weigh less than 5,000 pounds don't count, but anything over 5,000 pounds, it's applicable for the village to change that, to adjust it, to refuse to allow it. Of course, like I said, how many decades old is that? I have no idea.
If I could, that statute may not hold weight because the state statute calls it 24,000. I don't know that it says shall
For
not
class-
exceed
for class
24.
two highway.
Yeah, class 2, 3, or 4 town highway in any, or incorporated village, or in any town for that matter.
So we definitely need to look at it and revise. You're
so
right.
the-
So I've seconded it for
Yeah,
discussion.
so there's still a motion discussion. Joe?
But two things. One, I remember that this was discussed last fall, and the manager was requested to get all pertinent information. And now, here we are, middle of the winter, and you're still waiting for that said information. So, as a citizen watching that, that's very frustrating. Second of all, you're on very high ground, because you have a bypass already. US Highway, okay, goes the exact same direction. It detours trucks roughly 500 feet. Okay, there's absolutely no excuse for a truck to go down through the square, loaded with pedestrians in shopping district, or as the other alternative, going on a US highway, Route 5, that goes the same place. Make the motion. You guys got no worries here. It's a done deal, period. Make them fight you. You'll win.
Thank you.
Trust me.
So, any other further comment for all
this
those in
one.
favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay.
It's for the town side to put up the sign.
All right, so trustees,
This was
three,
our motion.
passes 3-4, 1 opposed.
Could we have a reading of our motion? Did we just amend it, or?
I mean, when was that?
If it was from a
Fall.
previous meeting, you have to,
And
Ours was a long time ago.
I just want to make sure we go back to covering the lighting issue.
We will, we're not
Okay,
done.
that's separate from the rest of it, okay.
But what I would like it to say is, what we just added, the weight,
Oh, I'll show you.
and we need a time to execute. Can we amend that? It was a long time ago. Maybe while we find that out, we can discuss the other.
yeah, so while we're waiting on, I guess, let's move to lighting, and we can always circle back, so it's the same
Raj,
line
just
item.
look at So we still going to be repaved? Is that part of the issue with
Bids
not
are gonna be
painting crosswalks in a
coming
way
right up.
that they can be seen? Yeah, that's what I'd like to know.
We're supposed to have the request for proposals Tuesday. We will see we're getting bids ready for.
Oh,
paved.
on the paving.
Right.
Yeah, what was
So
the-
we not going, so are we, in the meantime, are we going to let all of our crosswalks disappear? That's what I want to know.
Yes.
Or are we going to paint them? You see, that's the problem.
Great question.
Pedestrians are still going to cross. As a matter of fact, people still cross the crossways. Why? There's no longer a crosswalk area. Everyone continues to cross, spending a lot of money on lighting to light what? No crosswalk. What are you
Yeah,
lighting?
I don't, you can't, they're non-existent right now. They painted them and, they paint them twice
And the
twice a
paint doesn't
year.
last, right. And
Well,
the paint doesn't
I
last.
would like to look into what the product they use on the state job on Atkinson, Route 5, which I've been told has to be pressed in when
It's
it's
a 3M
warm.
product, yeah.
So we're about to do that, but everyone says it's expensive, but I don't see how it can be more expensive than painting them twice a year.
It is.
Every year, those are holding up quite well.
Yep.
Really?
Except on the
Atkinson Street
curves.
ones?
I stand on it every morning and every afternoon.
Okay.
It's giving way.
When did they put them in?
That was a year
3 years
ago
ago.
this past summer.
Two? So
I
they continue.
won't say they're
It was longer than a year ago. Atkinson Street?
last summer, a year ago last summer.
Yeah, according to Mike Hines, they're peeling up with the plow every time.
Yeah, that's what he
it-
said.
I won't say it's awful. I won't say it was a complete
You
waste
can,
of money. and
you
a
can
bad
clearly
idea,
see there's a crosswalk there.
But they are holding up better
They've
than the
painted these
paint.
ones 8 times since.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Mike will be here at the next week's board meeting, we can talk further about it, but, you know, also the bid is already prepared, we'll have it out to you on,
And that's for the paving.
for the paving I'm talking about, and then Mike will talk about the
That type of
sequencing.
crosswalk application, I believe, pretty much has to be done, unless you have a lot of money to spend, has to be done at the time of paving, shortly thereafter.
Right.
It takes a special
Well, that's,
thermometer rig to go.
we're
over.
about to pave all this.
Mhm.
So that would be the time.
So if we want to go that way, this is the time.
Right, and we talked about in the past, and that'll be a separate application or separate bidding process. We're also looking at sidewalk processes,
And
sidewalk
what
bidding
about
as
the,
well.
what'd you call them? The cones that we had out there after I asked
Oh,
about them?
the
Now
signs
they're
that say
gone again?
pedestrian signs.
Or we never leave them out in the winter.
So,
Well, you can't tell where the crosswalk is.
so back to the
So-
crosswalks, we're gonna wait over a year, basically between RFP to
Maybe we could put them out.
completion?
There's no sign of snow coming up.
Well, let me ask Cass, isn't there, when we get into the traffic line paint, isn't there federal regulation that we're in states supposed to meet for reflectorized material?
That being said,
On those-
if there is better resources, there is always paint with superior conspicuity.
Yeah,
Basically, the state, through the NUTCD, establishes a minimum quality of paint. But if you so desire and have better resources, you can afford to put down better paint with better conspicuity, better upward visibility. Saying that, I will also remind everyone that although crosswalks are an issue throughout town, where they're really extremely dangerously in need
yeah.
is Rockingham Street, our downtown section of Rockingham Street. And
Well, they're all the way. You can't see it. I just came in. You can't see any of
Yeah.
them.
So
We
we have
could
two.
put the cone, what do you call them? Standabouts?
Yeah, stanchions, standabout.
You can't see
Reminders.
any of the crosswalks.
I'd like to see them back again. I know it's a lot of work to keep moving them for the plows, but I'd like to see them again.
No
too.
snow in sight.
But we had two, Joe and then Pat.
Yeah, I just coming into the meeting, I cut across, technically, whatever, I got across the street. But I saw somebody in the crosswalk. I forget, towards the end there, right by the Polish American, or the Legion there, in the crosswalk. And a car came up and honked loudly or rudely at this person who was in the crosswalk. And then the driver continued on. Okay, just now.
Yep.
And they missed the person, you know, a few feet. So I only say that because it's happening on a daily basis, and you know, it's impossible to maintain 100% safety. But you know, it behooves us all to do everything we can within reason. And if you got to paint them 3 times a year, you got to have somebody go out there and put the special caution sawhorses, whatever it is, you know.
It sounds like something
an
an
ounce of
archery
prevention
enforcer could do.
Okay, the last thing you want is for someone
day.
to get seriously injured.
Well, it's the law, I mentioned it earlier, that person who was waiting didn't have to wait. They can walk out
Yeah.
and get hit by the car,
Oh yeah.
and then we're gonna hear about it again.
I
So,
wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah.
but it's the law.
But I know. It's passive.
So there's a little one half a
Pedestrians
white
right away.
strip here against the sidewalk where it hasn't peeled off. They say this is the crosswalk, they go for
Yep.
it, they
But-
get hit.
It's the law, but in, I would think the realm of reality, we do as a municipality have a responsibility to provide a well-marked and designated crosswalk,
I
identified
agree,
as such.
that's what I'm saying.
And a lit crosswalk. You
Well,
know, a lot of these places here are dimly lit, if lit at all. At this
Right
time
now,
of the year,
you
the
can't
leaves are
see
off
the
the trees.
crosswalk
You
in
can't
the
even see the
road.
crosswalk.
Before we light it, we need to
It's the
identify
painting
it.
in the lines that I think is the problem, but
You
Pat.
could put the cones out for now, it's not gonna snow.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say the cones are important, but the trucks just bang into them and push them out
The
of
trucks
way.
that aren't supposed to be.
And-
Yeah, those ones, yeah.
There's lack of visibility in the daytime. It's not just a nighttime issue. I cross back and forth all day long, come to the bank or going to the Cafe 7 or something, and people are either not looking or they're on their phone, which they're not supposed to be. But it's very dangerous to cross out here, much less any of the other ones. This is the most visible with the marble stanchions, the granite stanchions there. So it's really, really scary.
And I think another part of that is the enforcement element. If you stuck an officer down there and you banged a couple of people because they failed to stop for somebody in a crosswalk, the word, just like the ticket, would circulate pretty quickly, and whether it be Facebook or whatever the heck they're using now, you'd get the message, and I think most people would get a heads up and would think next time they come through here, they better stop for somebody in a crosswalk. But if we're not doing that, there's gonna be, just keep going or whatever anyways.
There's very little enforcement. I mean, I have people parking at the Rite Aid overnight, trucks, even though it says no overnight parking, and they're there with their generators all night, which I could hear from my house, and there's nobody looking at them all night long. They're sitting there. So that's not being enforced either.
That's Rite Aid's parking lot, though. It's up to them to have it
Well, I
towed,
know,
right? So
but obviously, there's something on the trucking network that they know that's a good place to park. And there's 2 industrial parks just north and south of town. You'd think they'd go there, and the one north of town has a little coffee shop in it.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So you'd think they'd go over there.
Maybe they're
But they
PKs.
don't.
Jesus.
So we're gonna, let's comment on this, but I guess we found the original motion.
Just, I know that we don't put the cones out in the winter normally, but because the paint is not visible, and we've talked 20 minutes about the safety of people trying to cross road, could we maybe put them out?
I'll talk to Mike Hines about it. Also see what level of painting he can do on the crosswalks. Obviously, with the weather it is, the way it is, it's going to be very difficult to make that happen, but we'll see what we can do.
When we put those out, when we found them, when we thought we didn't have them, had them, and then suddenly found them and put them out, made a big difference. People,
Yeah, I agree.
there's something in the road, so they look up from their
I
phone.
mean, yes, there is a possibility of them getting broken. That's always a possibility, but that's the cost of doing
It's
business.
better than
That's-
a
It's
human.
better, it's part of public safety. You have to, you know.
And then we
have to
did
keep it
find the motion
Oh, yeah.
from November.
Yeah, it was talked about in September and October in the motion.
You want to read it?
Gaetano Pudignano made the motion that the board finalizes the load limit and enforcement of violations and to place the proper signage as previously discussed. Motion was seconded by Cass-Wright. Motion passed unanimously. It was November 7th.
And do we need to amend it to say in pounds and
Or make a new motion.
You make a new motion, yeah.
That the signage should say 24,000 pounds for trucks.
is that what the
Limit. Is that
village
the limit?
was 24,000?
That's what we're,
Well, that's what he's saying the statute says.
The statute
We just
says-
have to
State
direct,
statute.
I mean, you have to correct your ordinance, correct?
Yeah, we have to correct our
And
ordinance, yeah.
then we're directing the town manager to get the signs and put them because that's our
Yeah.
ballot.
regardless of the ordinance. Because until an ordinance is,
well,
you know.
the signs can be just wait until the ordinance is finalized.
Well, it'd be a town ordinance, is that correct, if they're gonna put the sign up?
Town-
We can enforce
Yeah,
ours
doesn't matter
because
who puts the
anything over
sign.
5,000 pounds, according to that, if that's correct.
Because like the signs will take
Can't
some
we
time to
make the ordinance? Can't we make the load? Can't we,
it's a
we
town
just read
highway.
that we could do that?
Town highway, so we can do that, all right?
Well,
Let's do that.
That's
Make a motion
for the
to
town.
restrict the weight limit on Rockingham Street,
Westminster
Westminster,
Well,
Rockingham.
it'd be more of a-
Square.
A to A or?
Proper word would be to limit it, I believe, as opposed to
Yeah,
restrict.
limited to 24,000. I would just go up until the Arch Bridge, though, not further.
Well, I think we should capture them coming south on 103 Route 5. So if they see a sign by the police station that says, don't go downtown to get back to Route, we need one there too.
If they get as
Right?
far as past.
Well, the
Bend.
information booth, yeah. Or pump
You need
house.
one on the bridge so they don't turn left.
Correct.
Very rarely see a car turning left, it's mostly turning right from the bridge.
Mostly, but somehow
seen
there's a
both.
ton of them coming through here.
So,
What's the motion reading?
I'm sorry?
You
The motion.
Restrict weight limit
Limit
on
rate.
Westminster Street through the square and up Rockingham Street to 24,000 pounds and place proper signage.
You know, for
Like
the
by
sake
Sanel,
I think we have to say,
For the sake of brevity,
O'Reilly.
get across that bridge.
for the sake of brevity, if you include Rockingham Street and Westminster Street, there's no way they'd be in the square.
We just did.
And
It says
say-
Rockingham.
It says
and for the sake of clarity, yeah, Rockingham Street to the
You'd
what,
need a
southerly
sign
point
by
of the Arch Bridge.
O'Reilly,
I thought you
whatever
wanted
it's
to go
called.
further.
But the
Well,
sign
we're-
should
They've
just
got to be,
say-
able- they have to be able to cross that New Hampshire bridge,
But they could go that
Should say no
way.
through traffic through.
but they still have to come down that section of Rockingham Street.
This is if
But
they're
they would have no
traveling
sign
south.
that said they couldn't
Yeah.
at that point.
Well, let's,
The sign would be before the fountain saying, no through traffic.
Right.
And in fact, there's a sign saying Route 5 goes that way.
But if we're saying we're limiting it to 25,000 pounds and we're naming these streets,
Okay,
then
so
that's limiting.
it would stop at the Arch Bridge.
It has to stop at the Arch Bridge so
The
people
load
can
limit.
go across the Arch
Right.
Bridge.
But we'd need a sign by the fire station for them
Right.
coming south, one at the Arch Bridge for them wanting to turn left, and by Sanel so they don't merge right.
Right.
Could they make that right-hand turn?
These people drive in New York City, they can make any
No, but
turn.
is there enough space? That's by the pump station? To
Mhm.
make a right-hand turn?
Make a, from Atkinson to take,
Yeah.
they will cross over the double yellow line. once
It's
they-
inconvenient, but they can do it.
I believe it's the sign for no through traffic. And in 24,000 weight limit.
I just want to
Yeah,
make
it's-
sure that,
it's-
sometimes when you're,
it's difficult
That's
or
my
rather,
point.
and they do cross into the other lane, but
Right.
it is possible. They just don't like doing it.
DOT can help you with
Yeah.
the required signage and wording of the signs.
Right,
And I would suggest making a motion that the manager bring in DOT to assist ASAP.
Well, we made that in November, so now we need to
Yeah, to me,
say
it seems like the sign should be in the shed right now.
Specifically
waiting
what
for
it
the
says.
village to make a motion.
That'd be AOT,
Authorize
wouldn't
it
it?
to be
Yeah,
installed.
it is.
As opposed to DOT.
V-Trans.
Yeah.
And, I mean, this
Same
can
thing.
be talked about later, but just since trucks are gonna be crossing over to the other line, there might need to be like another stop sign or just another guide, so, I mean, cars don't go too far and crowd a truck trying to make a turn.
So, playing devil's advocate, before when this has been discussed, and you can imagine we've been discussing this for years, right? Not just months, years. So when people talk about trucks coming down Atkinson Street, people react because of school children.
There's nothing you can do about
Nothing you
that.
can do.
That's
No, I know,
pretty far- that's a
I am
US
just
highway.
saying that. So do you want to say during a certain time?
Nope.
All right,
Period.
okay, so.
Simple.
You heard it
Oh,
here.
Joe.
There will be comments about Atkinson Street and the schools, so.
Well, then you can send them to see me when I'm on the job.
No one can say
I've lost
nothing
a
about
kid
a
under
US
a PT.
highway. They have a legal right to be on there.
There's a speed limit, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion then is, let's just
Want me
get
to try
this.
again?
Yeah, let's just get this motion.
But I need to ask, is there a time limit as to how long these signs take to make? Like, I'd like
A
to
lot
put
of, you know,
a, I'd
a lot
like
of
to
them
put
are
a
stock.
time limit.
A
It should be
lot of it is a
stock.
stock.
Okay, so 2 weeks, enough time to have this executed?
If the boards are okay with me putting up signs without proper ordinances, we'll get them up. I don't know what the order time is. We also, if we need to put a new sign in a place.
Do we
where there's
need
no-
to make an
Let me finish what I'm
ordinance?
saying, if you would. If we need to put in drill a signpost, we need to do that. You know, there's winter conditions, and we have met Mike, Ron Lake, and myself, and we have spec'd out where the signs ought to be, and we are, you know, we've been trying to work with the sign guy named Marcos Miller at the state to have him come down and help us put together signs which must be by statute in conformance with the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and if they're not enforceable. So you have to do it right. You can't just slap up
Throw up
signs wherever you
exactly.
want.
That's what I was trying to say.
They have to
earlier.
be, you know,
Okay, but we've
properly done.
this has been since November. We've asked for this.
If you could read that back again, I don't think I was ordered to do it. I think the board talked about, you know, putting together
It's
something.
pretty
There was no
clear.
order.
Did we make a
Well,
motion?
let's-
Did
let's
We
just
did.
vote
Make the new
this.
motion.
Yeah, let's
In
make a
November.
motion and move forward.
So
and not-
if there was a motion and we voted on it, it
In
was a
November.
directive.
In November. I could read it.
Comments? Greg Gay from BDR Transport.
Sorry, what was your name?
Gregory Gay, BDR Transport.
Oh, great.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks. First thing, we're all talking about the dangers of the big trucks going through the square. How many people have been hurt by the trucks going through the square? I know Dermot Daly got hit in front of the Legion by a car, I believe it was. Mr. Barnes got hit in front of the Legion by, I think, a pickup truck. Not one tractor trailer has hit a person in this town, to my knowledge.
Oh, sir, that is very faulty logic.
Well,
Excuse me for interrupting you, but that's very faulty logic. No one's been killed yet?
Okay.
Why should we be concerned?
Sir, I believe our point of the discussion hasn't been so much about danger to pedestrians. That is, we have a lot of categories on this line item. It's about the wear and tear the trucks are giving to the surface of the square.
Okay, and that's fine. Assuming that the trucks cause the wear and tear, all you're gonna do is move the wear and tear from the square to Axon Street. You're not going to eliminate the wear and tear because you move the truck.
I will say the
For
state
the village.
helps us.
Another thing I want to say about the crosswalks is I can see the people in the crosswalks sitting up in the truck much better than I can see them in my car. I've had more close calls with my car, with people in crosswalks, that the last second they're there, than I have with the truck. I know people don't like trucks. They're big, they're scary. They're not as dangerous as you think they're. Now, another thing is, when we get up to the end of Axon Street, whether it's a sleeper or a day cab truck, You cannot see to the right to go out of there safely. You can't get the truck around far enough to sit in the passenger seat and see. I have offered, and I'll make the offer again to anybody on the board that wants to take and go for a ride in one of our trucks with me, and we'll take and go through the different areas in the square, off Axon Street, through the square, and you can see the geometry of the way the truck operates, and the truck is more safe going through the square. If I come into town from the north, I always come down Axon Street. But if I've got to take and go up through, I've got to go through the square to take and run the safest route for me and for the people around me, because if I have an accident with the truck, I'm probably not going to get hurt, but the people in the car might that run into me if I can't see getting off Axon Street onto Rockingham Street.
I wish every driver was as safe as you are, sir. The fact is, they're not. I watch them speed through the square every day. Speed. In a vehicle that weighs how much?
Enforce the speed limit. I agree with that. I mean, at one time, the speed limit in the square was, I think, 15 miles an hour, but it extended a little bit too far each way. But 25 to the bank, slow it down to like 20, 15 through the square, maybe back up to 20 to the
Well, sir,
bridge.
we have it at 25 now, and they're going through at 40.
So you were talking earlier about what it was going to cost to enforce. You've got the law in effect. All you got to do is get the police force to enforce the law you've got now if the trucks are speeding through the square.
Bingo.
And there are no higher percentage of trucks speeding through the square than there are cars.
Right. Thank you. I'll have I guess a question for you in a minute, but we had a comment from John.
Jonathan Wright, I'd just like to redirect to Mr. Gay really quickly, and the board. Starting from the corner of Rockingham Street heading north from the square point, it's almost any tractor trailer truck heading north or south really actually crowds the yellow line. And most of the time they're over the yellow line. It's very difficult if you have a northbound and a southbound tractor trailer truck, what they do at that intersection.
Whereabouts are you saying now?
The corner of, right here, the corner of Rockingham Street heading north from the square.
Yeah.
You know, our square is tight.
Well, what happened that one day?
We sat.
Oh, it was backed up for
I have a
hours.
video. They had to back trucks up because they couldn't pass right there because there was a northbound and a southbound 18-wheeler, and there wasn't enough width with the cars parked on either side for both trucks to make it through.
In a situation with snow that hasn't maybe had a chance to get cleaned up, I would agree.
This was in a dry.
There's parked cars on both sides of the road.
This is dry as late fall. And I understand where you're coming from. I'm a Class A CDL holder myself and have driven trucks. I don't like doing it. I don't even like driving cars that much. But I've had to drive trucks, and I know how stressful it is to be in that driver's seat and be in control of 80,000 pounds or however much you're driving. But coming through the square with that on a regular basis without necessarily having to is an issue for this town. It's an issue with safety. It's an issue with damage. I mean, you could come into these buildings when some of these trucks come through and feel how bad the front of the cafe shakes. You know, we just had a window break. I can't say it was trucks or vibration, but it wouldn't have been surprised, you know, if the window breaking at Works on Paper was caused by that.
How it wasn't.
Well, I don't know. I know that the windows in the basement of the cafe don't stay closed because when trucks go through, they open up. So there's, cold air dumps right into the basement.
So my question is, like, one of your big concerns was about visibility, and I'm not sure, I'm from the village, so this isn't our bailiwick, it's a great word. But the traffic mirror at the intersection turning from Atkinson to get onto the bridge, would that solve the visibility issue?
Traffic mirror.
Like if there's a mirror that could then allow you to see to the right as you were making that turn, and that would clear up that safety issue.
I won't say no, I won't say yes. I
Well,
mean, you'd
I'm
almost
not.
have to see how it goes.
I'm not expecting you to, I'm just saying that is the kind of thing that, there's a couple intersections in this town that I think, and village, that could use that kind of extra visibility. But I think that could be a solution that would make maybe everyone happier.
You're never going to make everyone happy.
Well, no, I've learned that.
I have a question as well. And do you apply for the overweight permit each spring,
Um,
whatever that is?
I'm not aware of any overweight permit. Our trucks are all permitted for 80,000 pounds, which is, the state limit,
It's federal.
federal limit, yes.
Look,
Is
you
there-
can hear in your eyes to make trucks stay on the US highway. It's simple as that. People are tired of paying to repave the square. I know the truckers aren't gonna like it. I'm a trucker myself, okay? It's a big pain, get off the bridge, bang a right, then bang a left, get on to the exit, get through the square, come the other way. It's gonna be a pain for these guys. But it's a pain for everybody to cough up the extra bucks. We paved this road 3 years ago and it's already shot, okay? So you gotta balance the needs of all the citizens in the village and the town versus the needs and inconveniences of the truckers.
Greg, let me ask if I may.
That's the question.
I
Which
have my
was
hand
more
up.
Well, sure,
important?
Gaetano did have
Who
some.
elected you people? The truckers or the people in the
The
village?
truckers are also part of our community.
All right.
Part of the
All
economy.
right, so Gaetano had his hand up.
Yeah, but they don't need to drive through the village.
They don't need driving through.
It's not about
There's
do
a
we like
bypass
truckers or
right
not.
there.
My concern originally is about the weight. I've watched them rattle these buildings and destroy the roads to the fact it knocks bricks off the building. That's my concern. They don't enforce the cars that go too fast. They're not gonna enforce the trucks that go too fast. That's not what this is about. It's about the weight. It's too much.
And you don't think that moving the trucks to Axon Street
Point
is
of
just going
order.
to shift the problem?
Atkinson Street is a state route. We don't have to pay for that.
Point of
part.
order.
You don't pay for it?
Sorry, yes, Deb.
Point of order, you've got multiple conversations going crisscross this way, that way. You're supposed
All
to
right,
be
yes.
speaking to the chair.
Yeah, thank you, Deb.
You're welcome.
And,
Street?
excuse me,
Gentlemen,
hey, Joe, Mr., yeah, thank you. All right. Now, bringing it back, there was a
Can I
comment.
finish?
Yes.
It's almost done. We're funding paving this road here. We don't fund, I'm not trying to budget money to fund, to pave that street. We're looking at paving this section of road, brand new right here, and the weight of the vehicles that'll be traveling on it. That's what this whole discussion is.
And I've lost track. Has the town made the motion?
We have not made the motion.
not a
Just about what I was looking for.
I want to ask my question. if I could.
For clarification, oh, yes. Okay. Sorry, excuse me, Stefan.
Mr. Gay, if you were, to, as they state, take that right-hand turn off there, New Arch Bridge, head north on Rockingham, and then you have to turn by Cumberland Farms by the pump house, how easy or how difficult is that to do with a 48-foot or a 53-foot trailer?
It's
And-
not difficult in the fact that our drivers have to take and make maneuvers like that. It's impossible to get the truck in the space when your front bumper is at the stop sign on that little street in front of Cumberland's. The rear of your trailer is hanging out in the other lanes.
Okay.
It just
I have a
is
follow-up.
not long enough to fit a truck in there.
And going back the other way is the same way.
Go back, probably the non-sleepers can maybe make it in that space.
They'll cross the double yellow, though.
They have to cross the double yellow both on Axon Street, and then you take up pretty much that whole street, and then you can get your tractor over, probably get the trailer into line. And I've done this when the discussion was in October and November. I placed the offer that someone could go for a ride with me, and I took the truck out and ran the run just to know what I was gonna deal with. So,
Right.
I was prepared for the conversation.
Stefan had a follow-up question.
And it was the, if you came down Atkinson and made that turn, but then I had my last question would be you as a professional truck driver. I'm sure from now on probably, and I'm not saying there was anything wrong in the past, but I think your people will be more diligent if they come through the square in the future here, that they'll definitely be doing the speed limit. But do you have any ideas or other ideas for a solution or a remedy to what we're talking about as far as this truck traffic issue?
I wish I did. Like I said, I always use Axon Street coming in from the north. It's simple to take and go that way. Going up through, whether you're going on the Arch Bridge or whether you're going up through to Rockingham, I usually go through the square. That's the, I still say it's the safest way for the trucks and the cars that are around the truck to go. I don't see another, and again, I'm willing to take anyone on the board who wants to go see it firsthand for a ride.
I don't think anyone's doubting you, Mr. Gay.
No. But Susan, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I don't know whether this is a possibility, but I know in Chester, when they had to, at the 103 intersection and 11, they talked with that homeowner on that corner to take some of that property to make it easier for trucks to make that turn. I don't know if that's a possibility with Cumbies. You know, taking up a part, you know, working with them to getting a right-of-way or whatever to redirect that street so it has a better turn radius for trucks. I don't know if that's a possibility, but it's just throwing it out
by
there.
the pump station to
Same,
give
yeah.
a little more room.
Same with the pump station, if there's anything way that can be done to improve visibility, and then that eliminates that issue to some extent.
Just to give you some history on that.
Gaetano had his hand
Oh,
up.
okay.
I mean, my father drove truck in New York City. I don't, it's not the most difficult intersection they're gonna encounter. And it's about what it's doing to the roads and the infrastructure. That's why I've made this motion.
Actually, the comment about if you revised the road to where there wasn't a straight shot off from Rockingham onto Axon Street, but you brought that around, not as, it's almost like you split the difference between the little road and the road that's there now. Now a truck could come up there where it could be, the nose of it could be squared to look both ways and turn left. But I don't know if there's a monument or what's on on that little island there.
Pump station.
It's a pump
It's a
station.
pump
It's a pump
station.
station. Is that easily movable or not?
No. Just sunk a lot of money into that.
No.
But I don't know how much space is in front of it to
It's all
reroute.
right at the point.
Another 5 feet would make a big difference.
We'll see when you're,
You know?
I mean, that's all, I think that's all they took in Chester was about that.
when you're talking the 5 feet down there,
I mean, whatever feet it is.
that facility that Cumberland's has just recently changed hands. They had a permit in years ago, maybe Deb being on the zoning or whatever, is more familiar now, but they also own the house next door, which I think belonged to the Dorcas Society or something at one point, and they wanted to expand their parking lot, and I believe they were denied, or the permit was denied, or the application was denied. Maybe there are their thoughts with new owners to do that, and maybe we could work an agreement where we can all come to a consensus and work something that we can all get along with, and maybe change that corner and better accommodate if we're going to have trucks doing that. So it's just a thought I want to toss out there.
Thank you. So just getting it back to the motion.
What's the motion?
Is the motion on the
It's
floor
on.
yet? We were just getting clarified.
Well, I had a question. I don't know. I was trying to find out how long it would take for the signs.
Don't we usually
so we
vote
could
on
put
it,
it, so
then
we
have
could.
discussion? I guess,
Well, you
so we're
make a
having
motion
this
for a
out of
second.
order, actually.
But I was,
We've
moved on it.
I was gonna
Yeah.
include a time in the motion, but I was trying
Point
to
of
find
order,
out.
end the conversation and bring it to a vote.
Well, I think the signs are apparently stock items, and I guess it's just a matter of how long, we can get the signs probably almost immediately, but it would just be a matter of, it would take much longer to actually get them up.
Installed. Because of the.
Well, there are some sign posts up. We would need to, we've already looked at them and said, we could move this one here, this one there, we can get rid of that one altogether. Particularly as you're coming north into town, it's very narrow, and in fact, the signs are on the wrong side of the road. There's a lot of, technical pieces to it, but again, I would just stress that, we could put them up, but we may not have the ordinances that would allow us to do any enforcement.
Well, this is still two separate things. So let's make the ordinance from our part.
Need a motion?
A motion, sorry. To
What do you have there?
limit you can read it.
Restrict.
I can't read that. I'm gonna make a motion, we restrict the weight limit,
Westminster Street.
Westminster Street, the square, it'd be to the Arch Bridge, 24,000 pounds, and place proper signage on designated locations, and no through truck traffic to be included in the sign.
Okay.
I'll
I'll s-
second.
In the next 30 days.
2 weeks.
Second
To
that.
get the signs.
It's been seconded for the purpose
Procure
of
the signs
discussion.
within 2 weeks.
Can we actually,
Can we have discussion after we do this?
It's been
It's
seconded.
been, it's been seconded.
Okay.
it's been seconded now, can you read the motion back to me, please, if you would?
To restrict the weight limit on Westminster Street through the square, on Rockingham Street up to the old arch bridge,
Okay. we're
to
on-
24,000 pounds, and place proper signage at designated locations. The signs to say no through truck traffic, and to have these signs in 2 weeks.
Okay. Can we lawfully do that without having the ordinance in place first, is my question.
We can purchase the signs tomorrow. It's not a big deal.
Right, but can we
Posting them?
post them?
We could, I'm
Without having
sure
the
we can
ordinance.
post them. Whether or not we can enforce it is the
Okay.
issue. In my opinion.
So then it's up
Hand in the
to,
back,
it's
Mom.
up
Yes,
to
there's-
the village to work on that ordinance.
Yeah.
And it's something that's on discussion tomorrow?
It is.
Okay.
We've been trying to wrap up motor vehicles and traffic for a while. That way,
So will
as soon as
this-
it's done, we'll
Getting
post
very
for-
close, yeah.
For
So
a hearing.
you can add
Yes,
this
there's
piece into
two
that,
hands,
okay.
yeah. All right, so I think, Chip, you were first.
Yeah, Westminster Street starts at the border with Westminster, which is Route 5. You can't restrict that one.
I was thinking of that technicality.
So from the,
Bond,
well, the island.
From the monument?
Well, that's where it'd
Monument
be.
Island there
Oh,
would be
Red
the
Light
point
Hill?
at which you are starting.
Right.
At the stop.
And you could be very clear by saying the
Yeah.
Class 2 section of Westminster Street.
Okay, thank you. Colin?
What's the cost of the signs posting them?
Shannon, do you have a rough
It
estimate?
depends on how many signs we have to get. I mean, we would need to do a full tally of the signage.
And would that
We
be?
have signs in the-
Would that be town, village, or
Town.
combined?
We're talking about the town.
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 And we have money, there's signed money in that budget that.
No, I'm
has-
just curious,
Yeah.
is the cost, the maintenance,
And
There's money in the budget.
Cheaper than maintaining the road.
absolutely.
That's my comment is, the cost of signs is infinitely fractional of the cost to repave the square.
So,
town has a motion on
town
that.
has a motion,
Yeah, I'd amend my motion to specify where Westminster Street, we're starting at the
Class
fountain.
2 section.
The Class 2 section of Westminster Street.
Do you accept that?
I accept that. All right, we ready for a vote?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
And someone made, this, it would be the town that made if we wanted to change the limit of this road, not the village. Who just said, is the village going to make an ordinance?
The village has.
We have an ordinance, we just
for
don't amend it to
enforcement.
reflect that.
Include that in their
For the
ordinance.
weight, you guys, okay.
Okay, so we've moved around a bit, but is there anything more on public safety roadway lighting? And I'm assuming we're just gonna suspend the traffic safety V-Trans question until we have.
Yes.
All right, so, moving on, item 5.
Well, as far as lighting, could we just talk 1 second?
Sure.
1 second.
Clearly, we can't see the lines for the
The
crosswalks,
lines need to be there to.
but we had talked about some kind of, because all the lights seem to shine up into the air. We looked at some kind of cap that may reflect light down. All the lights shine up.
I went out and looked at them all, and they don't. They actually have internal caps that reflect the light down. They're not shining upward.
Oh.
We can go outside.
I saw the pictures that he brought, and I look at them every day.
And then
Oh,
look.
Pictures, if you have a light that's shining down, one little floodlight, is 5 times of what the one across the street's doing.
If we go, maybe after the meeting, we can take a look, but.
Was it the Christmas lights or the
No, the
street lights?
regular street lights that, they are capped on the top so that to help reflect the light downward.
I think the issue has always been just that it's the lines themselves that are just disintegrated, you know. I think the lighting is fine, it's just that it's the road surface and the painting that
Well,
there
I
needs to be a solution.
I can tell you just from simple memory
Expensive.
that you have a lot more light concentration on the square at night than you do on Rockingham Street.
Yeah,
Oh, as far as, yeah.
so
distance
further up,
between
there
lighting,
needs to be
yeah.
more light. Yeah, yeah, that one crosswalk in particular is.
And how to approach that, I think there's a lot of different ways.
Any questions, more comments on this before we move on?
Just one thing, isn't
Sorry.
there, who's the town committee that dealt with lighting when we changed the lights around?
Conservation.
Energy committee?
Yeah, conservation.
Conservation?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm just saying for future, you might want to make sure they come too.
Okay.
I did that like that.
So, if there's nothing else, item 5, compensatory time. Is there anything further to say on this subject?
Well, the person who wanted it on the agenda
It's
is
not
on here.
here, so I'd
But
be-
he did express his comments to me.
Oh,
Which is that he did, and I will simply express how he expressed it, which is that he did not believe that the person who is the assistant to the manager, who also takes the minutes here, his concerns were comp time for your position. I mean, that's just basically what he got down to. But that's in the personnel rules, and unless the boards wish to change those personnel rules, that's the way it is. That was his take on compensatory time.
Who said
And
this?
Jigs.
Part of the contract too, is it not?
Well, no, if it's particular to one individual, I mean, it's for all salaried employees are treated the same. And the fact of the matter is the employee he's talking about has an exorbitant, their workload is truly significant, and she works harder than anybody around here. And that's how much time it takes to get done the work that she gets done. And in fact, the amount of time that is spent on village trustees' work is not even considered, because that is part of her job as village clerk. So that's not even tallied into all those hours that she's putting in every day and working through lunch every single day.
In excess
So-
of 40, yeah. Way in excess.
Significant excess of 40.
Yeah.
She's
Remember,
here at
this is not my
6:30 in the morning,
comments. These
quite
are
often.
Comments I got this morning on the phone. And also that he thought, his opinion is that the minutes may be too wordy.
I don't think that,
Yeah,
Oh.
too wordy. I think
let's take a
he would
vote on
prefer
that.
bullet points, if nothing
Yeah.
else.
well,
think the
let's,
minutes
we don't need to take a vote on that.
That's it, yeah, we don't.
But again, it's a village clerk matter, and that is not going toward those hours toward comp.
Comp,
So
yeah.
it's
Right,
a
it is
non-issue.
separated.
Well, thank you for presenting those comments from the absent board
Well,
member.
since he
and
put it on
Thank
there.
you, Shane. Thank you, Carrie.
And I just want to address the minutes thing. I mean, the minutes are vital. If you're ever faced with a legal
Yeah.
case regarding something that any of us decide, you really need to have accurate, precise minutes. And I just want to say
Yeah,
that
well,
that's
right.
not something I have any quibbles about.
No.
And we do have accurate and,
Yes.
really, really good quality minutes.
Yeah.
Unlike many, many communities out there.
well, maybe there's a way, and maybe she knows of a way, that to reduce her workload. Because I know, what time do you come in, 6 o'clock in the morning?
On occasion, no. Sometimes it's necessary.
Well, for a while, and I don't know if she still does it, she was monitoring all social media accounts. Does she really need to do that?
We're
Do you
not
need to
doing
do
that.
I don't do that.
It was a thing some time ago.
A while ago.
I don't do that.
All right, so.
Anyway.
So there might be some things that, you can take off her plate, for example.
But when these minutes have to be,
Talking about the
done.
minutes. If she's working in excess of this, there must be other things that other people can do. That's-
No, I mean, there really aren't.
Oh, who?
Who? There's, what other people?
I don't know, I don't know all she does. So that's the point, we don't know.
Okay, I'm happy.
Maybe she has an idea of how we can reduce her workload. What are we supposed to do with all these extra comp time hours, right?
She takes time off as necessary or loses them.
Well, that's not fair. So you hire another one, maybe you hire,
Another person?
yeah, for the village.
No.
That's-
The village doesn't have money.
Not gonna happen.
I know, I just said that to see if Steve was still awake.
Report that back to Jig.
Okay, so if there's
Dan's
nothing
paying for it.
constructive to say on this number, let's move on to the insurance incentive, which again, I think was more?
Also, the same member who is no longer here.
Is there
who's
anything?
Not here today.
Do you have comments from him?
Yes, his comments about those is that he totally disagrees with the insurance incentive, which was put in place before he was elected to the board. I have my own disagreements with it. My concern is that employees who require taking insurance, that's appropriate if they need insurance for themselves, their families, and so on and so forth. But he does not agree that incentives should be allowed. If they don't need insurance, then they don't take insurance. And that's his thinking.
Well, the incentive is part of the Bellas Falls and
It's-
Rockingham.
yeah, personnel
and-
rules.
And personnel rules and.
You guys
so-
just agreed to it
Right.
last
And
year.
So it's
And
kind of
review,
mute.
Local 98 also now has it enshrined in theirs.
Yep.
And is there any interest in changing that or any motion from the boards? Because if not, then we can.
Not unless we want to reconvene the bargaining unit or
Not
something.
at this
which I don't
point.
No, so that's, I don't
Does
want
somebody call
to, we
Jim?
could talk about this for
Oh,
a while.
And he
So
did
let's-
say he would like
I
to
think
talk about it
it's-
again
it's
next
too early
year.
to look at
But
it. We have
that's,
to-
you know, that's, he can bring it up
Okay.
at that point.
At that point, if there's no further comment on this, or?
No, just wonder what other messages we have from Jigs.
No, that's it, you got
Is that
it.
it?
Okay.
Why isn't he here to present his own questions?
Well, he's away.
He's out of
He's
town.
away.
Yeah, so
Should be waited
we can
to
move,
discuss it. I don't think it's appropriate for you to be doing that, but.
Well,
it's just
that's
my
your,
opinion.
that's your opinion.
That's my opinion, absolutely.
all right. Moving on, discussing the manager search committee, which I'd be excited to move forward on that.
Yeah. Carrie, did we get any? Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, I've gotten some
We only had 12
information
days.
that we can.
Not a lot of time.
Been in the paper for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
It's
the
been on the
18th.
website for 3 weeks.
On the website for 3 weeks, even though only in the paper for 2
Nothing,
weeks.
nobody has responded at all.
Yeah.
Okay, so we might have to recruit some people ourselves. Is that appropriate?
You can ask people.
We can ask people.
That's what we've done in the past. We've
Yeah,
asked people
yeah,
if they'd
we can
like
ask
to be
people.
on that.
Yeah.
And then your board approves whoever you recommend, right?
Yeah.
If individuals
I
come
think
with
that
names,
just-
then the board approves the
Yeah, so I
participants.
would ask that our board comes on Tuesday with recommendations of people to add to that search committee.
Yes, please. Same.
Same for us.
And I'll
Yep,
let Stefan know. And, yeah.
doing double duty, yeah.
And then, so that we should set a date for that first meeting while we're here.
Yes.
Yes, I know.
I have the old fashioned.
I think my schedule is
I have a couple.
slightly more flexible than yours.
A date for
I'm not
which
traveling anywhere,
committee?
Back
so.
20 years.
Wait, so
Your
wait, the
next
search
meeting will be
committee
the
is only.
13th, correct?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, yes.
The search committee is only some members from that board and some members from this board?
2 and 2.
Okay, which we
Yeah.
have, we haven't selected those either.
Oh, we did.
Yes, you
Or did we?
We did. It was,
Who?
it was myself and Jigs. I
Jigs,
believe.
okay.
And then.
Sorry.
For you.
Tano and Susan.
Okay, it's been a while, forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So if you're going to meet on the 13th, and we're meeting on the 6th.
Yeah.
So 14th, 15th, 16th, is that too soon?
I don't think so. No, I think we could arrange.
15th?
'Cause we do have, that's a Thursday.
Thursday.
Yes. I can do that. That's a date. Do you want morning, evening? It's gonna have to be.
Maybe like a noonish, because if there are people who could
Yeah.
join us from the community who can come during a lunch hour.
Somebody sent
Does
an
that work?
email to the
15th.
participant who's not here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
15th
raise
at
that as a
noon.
tentative date, and we can always adjust
Yeah.
a day or two.
And I'll discuss with Carrie about what place would be available for us to meet.
Right.
Here or the third floor.
That sounds good to me. It's good
Okay.
for you? Thursday?
15th at noon?
Yeah. so-
Yeah.
Oh, wait, that's not?
That's, oh, wait a minute, that's
town
the,
meeting day.
no, it's
Is that-
Legislation day.
Oh. right.
legislative day.
That doesn't work.
I have a
Is it-
question. This,
Oh.
this search committee, when we find some candidates, how's the interview process happening? With this committee or
You know, hired the lead.
as the boards?
I believe it just once the committee is
That
formed.
search committee?
As a search committee, we will discuss the process once we're in it, like what we want from.
2 from each board.
Yeah, 2 from each board, so it's you and Susan.
Would
me.
discuss.
We'll discuss how to go through the applications and.
Okay.
Usually that
How to
we've gone
advertise.
to the league Vermont League of Cities and Towns, and they send a list of all the possible candidates, and they rate them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. In the past, they've been recycled town managers that have been in other communities.
Sure.
Ann, can you
So
tell
the
me how they...
15th won't work because that is
Huh?
our legislative day. The 16th?
The 16th is,
Friday.
that is
Friday.
fine.
Friday noon, the 16th?
I can make that work.
Gaetano?
I could, that's not a
Fridays aren't
great
good for you,
choice.
right? I mean, it doesn't have to be, we can
We
move
could
it
try
into
the
the
week
next
after.
week. I mean, I don't want to push it too far.
No, we should have a timeline on this, too.
Yeah.
At your meeting.
I can make it if that's the day, it's fine.
16th?
Sure.
Okay, 16th.
All right,
then.
16th noon.
So I wanted to ask Ann, she just mentioned that VLCT rates the list of candidates.
Right.
What's their criteria? Do they give you a list of the criteria about which they rate the people? I mean, or is it,
I had
random?
a huge box since I've been here on town managers and search committees. I gave it all to Susan. So she's probably the best one to tell you exactly.
Never having a chance
They
to look
could
at it.
change, could have changed how they do things.
Yeah, so I mean,
Because I think
I'm
they
assuming they've
realize
got to
that.
give you something, so if they think this person belongs to number 1 and this person belongs to number 30, there must be some reasoning behind
Is there
that.
like a rubric or something?
Yeah,
Well, you know, sometimes people will say, I think you'd be a good town manager. Why don't you apply? So they do. So that doesn't make you a good town manager material. So it's,
Okay.
That's true.
So we're
I
gonna,
passed something out to these two about what I've seen other communities do, which is come up with a profile, a desired profile of an individual. These are the things we want in our next manager. And, with that, craft some kind of document as to, so far as recruiting is concerned. So this is what we're looking for, this is how we're gonna rate people. And I know VLCT can help with that, but I'm sure you could also do it on your own.
so aren't we,
I'm happy to help also.
we're going to advertise, and we're gonna
Yeah.
look between this dollar amount and that dollar amount?
Yeah, of course, I mean, but all of this stuff, all the
Yeah.
details will be discussed in our committee and whatnot. But I mean, right now,
What's
I
being
think for
advertised
us.
right now?
Nothing.
Nothing yet.
I thought you said,
No,
Search committee.
Search
Oh,
committee members.
yeah.
That's people
Members
who
for
wanted
the
to work
search
with
committee.
us.
Gotcha.
We don't have a job description, I mean, that's
Okay.
what the committee will be coming up with.
Great.
But I think at this point, at the joint board level, we can look at a timeline, okay? When time, so you can direct the committee what you want them to do. And that is, so when do we want the job announcement to be sent out? I mean, that deadline, I think you, as a joint board, could give to us at this point. Because we do want to hire somebody ideally before you leave, so that there's some slight overlap, would be my guess. I mean, that's what people here agree as to as well, that there's, and is it a 2-week overlap, is it a month overlap? I mean, because that becomes a budget constraint, issues too, so.
It's like
also, it would depend on the candidate as to how.
Right. But backtracking from that, we really would want to have a hiring date set as of what? May 1st? I mean, a decision, where we're doing the interviews and that kind of a thing is what I meant.
Yeah.
well, even if you don't have anybody in place, we pay the league a considerable amount of money, and they send somebody, a temporary town manager, if you will.
Right.
Well, then, yeah, if we have to. But,
you have
But
to.
I mean, not,
So
in our
I mean,
ideal situation.
It's not the end of the world
No,
if we don't.
I
have
understand
anyone.
that, but right now I'm thinking of the time we have left. We have 5 months left. So what time constraints do you want to put on this committee to meet certain goals of sending out the application, coming up with a,
So maybe
Coming up
after
with
our
a job
first meeting, we could come up with what we'd like the job description to read and set a date with getting that out there, like a week after our meeting. Maybe we need 2 meetings to come to agreement with what we want to do there. And then why not put May 1st as our deadline to hire this new position? Or,
Well, I think, our first meeting, like, we
I don't
can
know.
just have we can come up with the
4 months
job
is a long time.
description, the ad, and whatever it is, we're gonna meet that Friday, the 16th. The next trustee, the next select board meeting, the boards can then say approve or change any.
I think it'll be hard to come up with a job description we all agree on that one meeting.
Well, no, that's tight, but that's ideally what we want within a couple meetings of the boards. We want to have worked out an ad, because the longer that ad is out there, the longer the candidates we want will be able to apply.
You know, when you get them, you're gonna get, and I said this before when we did this, you have the A pile, the B pile, and the C pile, right? So usually the A pile, they're like way too good to come here. They just put out their resumes everywhere. Then we start looking at the B pile again. So this is what we've done in every single interview process. So we're not going to get, for the amount of money we offer, your last job you made way over $100,000. And a lot of town managers make that.
So we should say A's need not apply.
No, we're an equal.
No, but you know what I mean.
We're an
Yes, I
equal
do.
So,
opportunity employer.
Town
but-
managers get far more than what we offer.
I disagree with that.
Yeah, I disagree too.
Oh, I knew it, but anyway.
All right, so to give guidance to this committee, I would, May 1st, coming up with a job description and putting out, March 1st, sorry, the job announcement.
Yes.
That's a reasonable goal, I think, for our committee to come up
It's
with,
the month,
And-
yeah, 4 weeks, basically.
basically.
The league is
Because
gonna-
we can't meet until midway through next month anyhow.
Right.
And then,
Then you have to
Well,
make a
we- I
decision
mean, the
where
com-
you want to advertise. Is
well,
it
yeah, but
just
that'll
with
all
the
be, I
league?
mean, right now, that's all committee
Yeah.
level decisions.
Yep.
Right now, I just want direction from you. Is that acceptable for a time to put the job out there? Yes? Okay. That's the guidance I'm looking for. Thank you.
I think there are timelines in that box I gave you too.
So
Okay.
you got some homework.
Huh?
Yes.
You've got some homework.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
See the size of it.
Anything else on this? All right, we can move on to other business. I never remember, I'll just, Gaetano, any other business?
Come on, you can think of something.
All right.
There's enough out there.
We can, all right, Cass?
No, I only kick one hornet's nest at a time.
All right. Ann?
No.
Susan?
I'll say.
I have nothing further.
Not this time.
Steve?
Apparently, we're all tired and going.
All right, so the village does have need for executive session. So we'll just, but
Agenda-
anything
I mean,
for the
agenda
next joint
items.
board?
Jesus.
What?
4 months away.
May 29th.
What did you say?
No.
No, be a new election by then.
All right, so.
May 29th, confirm the offer to the new town manager.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, you want to add that,
Dreams
yeah.
and your dreams.
There's a tentative.
Okay. So if there's nothing further to add for the next joint board agenda, then we can have a motion to.
When is that?
Adjourn the joint board.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
What's that?
It's a motion to adjourn the joint board, and then then the village reconvenes to do executive session.
Oh, we don't go? We don't have to stay here?
Oh, correct.
Yes.
Separate.
So, never mind. I have the motions here.
Wait, no, we haven't.
The joint
we said-
boards could go into.
Executive session.
Do the joint boards have to go?
Does the select board need to be? No. No. It is
Wait
a,
a second. Oh,
I'd love
at the
to.
bottom.
Did we vote to adjourn? Oh, let me see if we did. I missed it.
Oh, you lost it.
Yes, no?
No, we didn't vote to adjourn yet, because the question
Okay,
was brought
so
up whether.
executive session.
we-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
Okay, who's the motion?
so we'll just,
Oh, I thought I seconded or made a motion to adjourn.
No, no, well, who was the motion for executive session?
I had it. I'm fine trying to find it. It might have just get shuffled into your stuff.
I don't see it, sir.
Yes,
There's
Two votes,
okay,
two votes.
Thank you. All
yeah,
right.
two
But
motions.
only you guys can.
Right. Oh, yeah, I'm coming out. Right, yeah, that's true.
There's no such thing as a joint board.
No, there isn't. It's the joining of two boards, but they are not joined. They're still boards separately.
All right.
So,
So,
we-
I'll
so
just-
motions need to be made by both boards to go in.
If-
Okay, so we're both
I thought we
going.
weren't going in.
Are we going in?
Yeah,
Unless they don't.
wait, so I just wanted,
No, it's separate.
you were saying it's a meeting of the joint board? It says a joint board meeting, Rockingham Select Board and Bellows Falls
I
Village
think-
Trustees.
So I guess we can't formally adjourn, but the select board can
You don't have to invite.
They're not invited in, yeah, they don't have to.
Okay, so then they have to make a motion to adjourn on their own.
Yes.
No, because it's a joint board.
They can't, no, by statute, we are separate boards. The Secretary of State has said, we are two boards having a meeting, therefore,
Together.
there should be separate votes
To
on
adjourn.
each item, yes, and that includes adjourning.
Okay.
Motion
All
to
right.
adjourn.
Fourth
So
on
you
this.
guys
Go
can
back and
adjourn.
forth on this. Okay. Motion to
Second.
adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks a lot. See if we bring cookies next time.
Yeah, go
So-
get the dog.
I move to find that premature general public knowledge of labor relations agreements with employees will clearly place the municipality at a substantial disadvantage by disclosing labor relations agreements.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. I move that the Bellows Falls trustees enter executive session for labor relations agreement with employees under provisions of Title I, Section 313A1 of the Vermont statutes, and invite Ray Masuko, village attorney, when he arrives.
He's not coming.
He's not going to come.
He's not coming. Okay. So.
Sure you need executive session.
He's like, he's not going to come.
Yeah.
Invite municipal manager Shane O'Keefe, village clerk Carrie Bennett, and select board chair Susan Hammond to attend.
Sorry, Susan.
It hopefully won't be long.
I guess the three of us would be.
No, it won't be.
She wants to get home and watch the president of the eye, right?
Sue Hammond is entering not as a board member, she's not been authorized.
No, she's mentioning as a member of the negotiating team.
Yeah, that's it.
Did somebody second that?
No.
Second.
Thank you.
Now it is.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
By the terms of the settlement agreement between the Bellows Falls Village Corporation and the IAFF Local 4473, and to have the agreement countersigned by the municipal manager on behalf of the village.
I'll second it.
Wait, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
Now you can hand this stuff back.
And now the trustees,
Now
we
it's-
can adjourn.
Yeah, it's a public document.
Or a motion, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Yes. This was selected.
Yes. Here, Deb, could you hand me the motion again?
Yes, certainly.
Just for posterity's sake.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So for those of you at home, the board went out of executive session, and Trustee Wright read, I move to have the Board of Trustees ratify the terms of the settlement agreement between the Bellows Falls Village Corporation and the IAFF Local number 4473, and have the agreement countersigned by the municipal manager on behalf of the village. And there was a
Why did you,
unanimous vote.
I'm not sure why you had to reread it. Why did you have to reread it?
It wasn't
Because
running.
when I come back in and I plug this stuff in, it takes about a minute to get the feed going again. So
I-
you were not on TV when you read it.
We shouldn't read the terms.
No.
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 Okay, so
So no, we've moved to adjourn. We've adjourned.
Yeah, we've already adjourned.
I was just reading this.
As
It's a public document.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gave it to her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even before